Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Listen, if you've ever walked out of your Cambridge AS or A-level accounting exam feeling completely confident that you understood the theory, only to get your results back and realize you somehow dropped massive points on the actual paper, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we are decoding the examiner's playbook for accounting 9706, and we're focusing entirely on a vital, incredibly heavily weighted topic, the preparation of ledger accounts. We are absolutely not looking at this from a standard textbook perspective. We are looking at this through the highly critical, unforgiving, and deeply analytical lens of the Cambridge examiners themselves. Based on recent examiner reports, there is a massive disconnect between what students think they need to write and what the marking scheme actually demands. So today, I'm stepping in as your master coach. This isn't just a quick review, this is a full-scale masterclass on dissecting complex questions, allocating your time perfectly, and deploying high-level critical thinking strategies. We're going to break down exactly where candidates lose marks and, more importantly, how you can secure them.
Let's start with exactly why this matters and why we're dedicating an entire deep dive strategy session to this single topic. Preparation of ledger accounts makes up approximately 15% of the total marks in your Paper 2 exam. Now, I want you to really think about that. That is a massive chunk of your overall grade resting on your ability to not just balance a simple T account, but to demonstrate a comprehensive, bulletproof understanding of financial recording. To put that into perspective, nailing this 15% is literally the defining factor that pushes your final grade across the threshold from a B right into that top tier A or A star bracket. And this is where we have to talk about the anatomy of command words in those high tariff 9 to 15 mark questions. Examiners use specific verbs, and if you misinterpret them, you lose the marks, even if your math is flawless. You have to deeply understand the contrast between analyze versus evaluate and explain versus to what extent. Analyze means you're breaking the ledger data down into its core components, but evaluate, that means you're weighing the pros and cons, making a judgment call based on that data. Similarly, explain is just giving the reasons why a transaction was recorded a certain way, while to what extent demands that you argue how much a specific accounting policy impacted the final balances. We have to look past the surface of the question and isolate the command word, the content knowledge required, and the hidden constraints of the prompt. To help you master this massive 15% chunk of the syllabus and tackle those command words flawlessly, we've structured this explainer into a strategic playbook. We're going to hit 4 specific targets today. First, the core principles. Second, the step-by-step technical methodology. Third, evaluative thinking. And finally, the hidden examiner traps that you absolutely must avoid. Let's get into it. Section 1, core principles. This is all about completely shifting your mindset and thinking exactly like an examiner. Now, students often struggle with what we call multi-stage analysis. But honestly, it's really just about breaking down a complex problem systematically instead of rushing blindly to find the final number. To show you what I mean, I want to bring you into a recent digital study suite session I ran with 2 of my top scholars. Let's call them Alex and Sam. Now, Alex is a highly technical student. Alex excels at formulas, memorizes every single fact, but really struggles with open-ended evaluation. Sam, on the other hand, is an incredibly creative thinker, super strong at building arguments, but completely struggles with structural precision and managing the clock. I gave them both a complex 12-mark ledger problem. Immediately, Alex wanted to just crunch the numbers, plug them into the T account, and get the final balance. Alex was pushing for a purely factual, transactional approach. But Sam paused and argued for a broader conceptual perspective, asking, wait, why are we adjusting for this specific accrual in the first place? How does it impact the broader financial health? They were practically debating the entire layout of the problem. And here's the secret. To unlock the top-tier marking bands, what Cambridge calls assessment objectives A01, A02, and A03, you actually need a fusion of both Alex and Sam's approaches. Multi-stage analysis is your cognitive roadmap. If you try to skip the analytical steps just to find that final balance, like Alex initially wanted to do, you will almost certainly miss the underlying causal relationships that the examiners are actually testing. And this brings us to a massive differentiator, pulled straight from the principal examiner reports. They state, candidates referencing cross-topic connections achieve significantly higher marks. During that same study session, Alex and Sam were arguing over how to classify a tricky depreciation adjustment within the ledger. Alex was looking at it purely as an isolated math problem, but Sam remembered this exact principle and intervened, saying, hold on, this isn't just about depreciation. It's heavily tied to the revaluation of non-current assets we learned about last month. That self-correction right there is exactly what examiners want to see. Top-performing candidates don't treat topics in a vacuum. They show a connected conceptual understanding. When you're preparing a ledger account, you are actively integrating other syllabus areas, like depreciation, accruals,
prepayments, or bad debts right into that specific ledger. Showing the examiner that you understand how these topics interlock and affect each other is the absolute hallmark of an A-star paper.
Moving on to Section 2, the technical methodology. This is where we emphasize process over product.
Okay, the crucial point here is the method mark strategy. Listen to me closely because this is vital. Cambridge examiners actively reward your analytical process and clear notation, not just a flawless final answer. Let's say you make a tiny arithmetic error early in your calculations. If your formatting is a mess and your workings are hidden, you lose the mark and likely all subsequent marks. But if you deploy the method mark strategy, showing exactly what principle you're applying with clear, structured working, the examiner can see your logic. Process over product is how you survive incredibly tough exam questions. Now, before we get into the exact 6-step framework for securing these method marks, I need to pause for a second. We are about to solve the absolute hardest part of this ledger problem, the exact spot where 80% of students hit a massive roadblock. Before I show you the cognitive strategy we use to get unstuck, I want you to take 1 second and hit that subscribe button for Ace the Exam's IGCSE ONA levels at the handle @AceTheExam_IGCSE. Make sure you enable all notifications right now. Seriously, click the bell icon. You do not want to miss our weekly Cambridge breakthrough strategies. All right, let's get back to the whiteboard and break through this roadblock. So right after subscribing, let's look at how Alex and Sam got completely stuck on timing and paragraph linking when trying to justify their ledger entries. They hit a wall. So I used a picture-in-picture pause in our session, stepped in, and taught them this standardized 6-step cognitive strategy to systematically secure every single method mark. First, you deconstruct the question constraints. What is the command word asking? Second, extract relevant data from the stimulus texts and tables. Third, select the correct analytical framework. Fourth, execute your analysis with clear step-by-step working. Fifth, verify your results. You have to step back and ask, does this balance actually make sense in the real world for this business? And finally, step 6, present the information appropriately. Once Alex and Sam applied this sequence, we literally rewrote their flawed section out loud. They went from a mediocre, disjointed paragraph that would have scored maybe 3 marks to a flawless, beautifully linked, full-mark response that clearly outlined their methodology. It was a total game changer.
And let's double down on that final step, presentation. Step 6 isn't just a polite suggestion. It is a strict syllabus requirement. Your ledger accounts must follow rigid presentation conventions. We're talking about proper headings, correct accounting terminology, appropriate standardized formats, and crystal clear annotation. A great memory hack here is to mentally check these off in the last few minutes of your exam. If you leave off dates, if you don't bring down your balances correctly, or if you use lazy abbreviations like B/D without proper context where full words are expected, you are simply leaving easy, guaranteed marks on the table. Don't do it.
Now we're entering Section 3, evaluative thinking. This is how you unlock those top marking bands. Let's make this an immersive workshop right now. I want you to actively participate. Top scoring candidates move far beyond basic descriptive processing. They engage in deep critical analysis. Evaluative candidates question assumptions, consider alternative interpretations, identify limitations in the data, and crucially, they justify their decisions with hard evidence. So, for scene 1 of our workshop, imagine I've just put a complex, multi-year depreciation graph on the screen in front of you. Imagine a 60-second visual countdown timer ticking down. In that 60 seconds, an evaluative candidate isn't just reading the numbers. They're asking, wait, is the straight line method actually the most realistic assumption for this specific type of machinery? Now, scene 2, let's play spot the flaw. Imagine a poorly written student answer that says, the business should change its depreciation policy because the ledger balance is too low. Can you spot the errors? First, it lacks any specific evidence. Second, it doesn't consider the alternative interpretation. Maybe the balance is low due to a recent massive disposal of assets, not the policy itself. And third, it fails to identify the limitations of just looking at one single year's ledger. When a question asks you to evaluate a specific accounting treatment, you cannot just state what happened. You have to evaluate the quality of the evidence, compare different approaches, and tell the examiner exactly why a particular decision is the most appropriate based on strict accounting principles. Finally, let's jump into Section 4, Examiner Traps. This is exactly where unprepared candidates lose their marks. The absolute most dangerous trap of all is providing vague or generic answers. You might have memorized a textbook definition perfectly, word for word, but if you drop that generic answer into your exam paper without adapting it to the specific business scenario provided, you will not get full credit. No way. You must always, always link every single point and causal relationship directly to the given scenario. Context is king here.
If the stimulus material is about a specific manufacturing business struggling with inventory valuation, your written analysis of their ledger accounts must explicitly reflect the realities of a manufacturing business, not a generic retail store. So to synthesize the entire masterclass into 3 core memorable pillars, let's look at the absolute top mistakes straight from the examiner's desk. Number 1, candidates are too vague. To combat this, you need what I call the 3-step question scan. Always scan for the command word, the core topic, and the specific business context before you even pick up your pen. Number 2, under time pressure, students forget formatting. This is where you deploy the last 5 minutes review checklist to ensure dates, balances, and headings are immaculate. And number 3, answers fail to tie back to the specific context. To fix this, use the paragraph balance formula, making sure every single paragraph you write balances a piece of accounting theory with a specific piece of data extracted directly from the question prompt. By the end of our digital study session, both Alex and Sam had massive breakthroughs. Alex realized that formulas are useless without context, and Sam realized that creative arguments fall apart without structural precision and timing.
So, knowing the massive 15% stakes of ledger accounts, the sheer power of the MethodMark strategy, and the exact traps examiners lay out for you, how will you apply this deconstruct, solve, evaluate playbook to your very next practice session? Crushing Cambridge exams requires consistent, relentless strategy. You can't just passively watch this. I need you to pull up a past paper right now and execute these pillars. Before you go, hit that subscribe button for AC Exams IJCS O and A levels at @ACExam_IGCS. Turn on the notification bell right now so you don't miss our future exam hacks. And most importantly, go down to the comment section right now and publicly declare your target grade. Put it in writing. Hold yourself accountable. Passing is just about knowing the rules, but acing the exam is about knowing the examiner. Keep grinding, keep practicing, and I will see you in the next masterclass.